Hello there, and welcome to the Dozing Explorer. I am so glad that you have found your way to this quiet harbor as the day comes to its final, peaceful close. The world is beginning to exhale, to let go of its busyness and its noise. This is an invitation for you to do the same. Feel the support of the surface beneath you, a gentle and constant presence. Let your breath find its own slow and easy rhythm, a quiet tide that rises and falls without any effort at all. There is nothing for you to do here, nothing to achieve. Your only task is to allow yourself to be held by the quiet of this moment. Tonight, we will embark on a journey of the most profound and gentle kind. We will travel back in time, not by years or by centuries, but by 13.8 billion years, to the very beginning of our universe. We will explore the quiet and wondrous events of its first moments, not as a complex and difficult science lesson, but as a beautiful, serene, and deeply relaxing story. We will imagine the universe as a single, quiet point of potential, and we will watch as it gently and silently unfolds into the vast and beautiful cosmos we now know. This is a lullaby of creation, a story of the quiet dawn of space and time. We will imagine the universe as a perfect, shimmering sea of pure energy, a place of profound and simple unity. We will feel the moment the first gentle dewdrops of matter condensed from this cosmic steam. We will float in the warm, luminous and silent fog that was the entire cosmos for hundreds of thousands of years. The purpose of this journey is to connect with a sense of the universe that is utterly peaceful, simple, and serene. It is a journey designed to quiet the complex thoughts of your own day by replacing them with the deep and gentle simplicity of the very beginning of all things. And if this gentle journey to the dawn of time helps you to find your own deep and peaceful state of rest, you might consider subscribing. It is a quiet and simple gesture that helps other weary travelers of the night find their way to this restful place to join our quiet community of cosmic drifters. It is just a soft thought to hold for a moment and then to let go of as you let go of everything else. For now, your only task is to rest. Do not try to hold on to the numbers or the names. Let the ideas wash over you like a gentle and ancient tide. Let my voice be a soft and steady rhythm in the deep, cosmic quiet. If your mind wanders, let it. If you fall asleep, that is a wonderful and beautiful thing. Simply allow yourself to become as peaceful and as simple as the early universe itself. As our gentle journey to the beginning of everything begins, the entire universe began as a single, quiet point of infinite and gentle potential. Let your mind drift back beyond the stars, beyond the galaxies, beyond the very first atoms, to a moment before time itself. In this state, which is almost beyond our ability to imagine, everything that would ever be, every star, every planet, every grain of sand, every thought you have ever had, was contained within a single, infinitesimally small and perfectly simple point. This was not a point in space. It was all of space. It was not a moment in time, it was the beginning of time. It was a state of pure, undifferentiated and quiet unity. Imagine it not as a compressed and a violent thing, but as a single, perfect and sleeping seed. It was a seed that held within it the quiet and gentle promise of an entire, vast and beautiful cosmic forest. It was a state of such profound and perfect stillness that it is the ultimate and most perfect of all forms of peace. It was the universe in a state of deep, dreamless and perfect slumber, a quiet and beautiful nothing that was also, in a gentle and a profound way, absolutely everything. It is the ultimate and most restful of all origin stories, a beginning that is not a bang, but a single, quiet, and infinitely gentle point of pure and perfect potential. Before the beginning, there was no before, as time itself began in that first silent moment. This is a gentle and a beautiful puzzle for the mind to rest with. Our human minds are so accustomed to the idea of cause and effect, of a before and an after, that it is almost impossible for us to imagine a moment that did not have a before. But the beginning of our universe was also the beginning of time itself. The very fabric of before and after was created in that first, quiet, and gentle instant of unfolding. To ask what came before the Big Bang is like asking what is north of the North Pole. It is a question that gently and quietly dissolves upon closer inspection. It is an invitation to let go of our normal linear way of thinking and to simply and peacefully accept the idea of a true and an absolute beginning. It is a quiet and profound boundary to our understanding, a gentle and beautiful shore beyond which our questions can no longer travel. And to rest at that shore, to simply and quietly accept that gentle limit, is a form of deep and profound peace. It is the quiet and gentle rest that comes from no longer needing to ask what next or what before. The Big Bang was not a loud explosion, but a quiet, rapid, and graceful unfolding of space everywhere at once. The name Big Bang is a beautiful and a poetic one, but it can be a source of a gentle and a quiet misunderstanding. It conjures an image of a great cosmic bomb, a chaotic and a fiery event happening at a single point in an empty room. The reality that our physics describes is something far more quiet, far more graceful, and far more profound. It was not an explosion in space, but an expansion of space. It was not something that happened at one location, but something that happened everywhere, all at once. The entire vast fabric of the cosmos began to unfold, to stretch and to grow smoothly, gracefully, and perfectly in every direction. It was more like the silent and beautiful time-lapse blossoming of a cosmic flower, its petals unfurling simultaneously into the quiet and gentle void of its own creation. It was a moment of pure, silent, and perfectly choreographed becoming, a graceful and a quiet genesis. In the very first, unknowable moment of time, all the laws of physics were united as a single, perfect force. In our universe today, we experience four distinct and fundamental forces: gravity, electromagnetism, and the strong and the weak nuclear forces. But our theories suggest a beautiful and a simple truth, that in the incredible heat and density of the universe's very first moments, these four separate forces were all merged together as a single, unified, and perfect superforce. It was a time of profound and beautiful simplicity. There was only one rule, one law, one fundamental way of being. Imagine four distinct and beautiful musical instruments. Now imagine a time before they were separated, a time when they were all a single, unified, and perfect source of sound, capable of playing a single, pure, and all-encompassing note. This was the state of the early universe. It was a state of perfect, quiet, and deeply peaceful unity. A gentle and a beautiful reminder that the complex and diverse world we see today was born from a state of the most profound and the most simple oneness. The universe underwent a moment of inflation, a sudden, silent breath that expanded it to an immense size. In the very first fraction of a second after the beginning, the universe did something truly wonderful and strange. It underwent a period of incredible, exponential, and almost instantaneous growth. This is the theory of cosmic inflation. It was not a normal expansion, but a hyper-expansion, a moment when the fabric of space-time itself stretched at a rate far, far faster than the speed of light. In a tiny fraction of a second, a region of space smaller than a single proton was expanded to a size larger than our entire observable galaxy. It was a sudden and a breathtaking, but a perfectly smooth and a silent act of creation. It was as if the universe, in its very first moment, took a single, deep, quiet, and enormous breath, a breath that set the stage for the vast, gentle, and peaceful scale of the cosmos that we now inhabit. This gentle, exponential growth made the universe incredibly smooth and uniform. The theory of inflation is not just a strange idea, it is a beautifully and a gently powerful one, because it explains so much of what we see in our universe today. One of its greatest and most gentle successes is that it explains why our universe is so remarkably smooth and uniform on its largest scales. The process of this hyper-expansion was like taking a tiny, crumpled and wrinkled piece of silk and stretching it out to the size of a great ocean. The stretching would be so immense that all the original wrinkles and imperfections would be smoothed out to a state of near-perfect flatness and uniformity. This is what inflation did to the fabric of space-time. It took the chaotic and the random quantum fluctuations of the very first moment and it stretched them out to a cosmic scale, creating a universe that was, to an incredible degree of precision, the same in every single direction. It was a great and a gentle cosmic ironing. In the first second, the universe was a sea of pure, shimmering energy, hotter than the center of any star. Let your mind drift back to this strange and beautiful primordial state. In the moments just after inflation, the universe was a place of unimaginable but gentle heat and density. It was a perfect thermal and uniform sea of pure energy. It was a place where matter, as we know it, could not yet exist. It was a shimmering, vibrant, and perfectly smooth soup of photons, of gluons, and of other, more exotic, fundamental particles, all in a state of perfect, chaotic, and beautiful equilibrium. It was a universe without any structure, without any form, without any objects. It was a state of pure, simple, and undifferentiated being. Imagine a perfectly still and a perfectly clear and an infinitely hot ocean of pure light, a place of such intense and uniform brilliance that the very concept of seeing would have no meaning. It was the universe in its most simple, its most pure, and its most energetic state. There were no atoms, no stars, no galaxies, just a perfect, simple, and uniform cosmic soup. This is a deeply peaceful and a simple thought to rest with. The universe, in its very beginning, was not the complex and the cluttered place that it is today. It was a place of the most profound and the most beautiful simplicity. All the rich and the wonderful complexity of our modern cosmos, the intricate dance of the galaxies, the beautiful life cycles of the stars, the complex chemistry of the planets, all of this was yet to be born. In the beginning, there was only this single, simple, and perfectly uniform substance. It is a quiet and a gentle reminder that all of the beautiful complexity in our own lives has its roots in a state of the most deep and the most perfect, simple peace. The universe is a story of a journey from the simple to the complex, a quiet and a beautiful unfolding from a state of perfect, restful unity. The fundamental forces of nature we know today gently froze out of this hot, unified state one by one. The story of the universe's first second is the story of a slow, graceful, and beautiful process of cooling and of differentiation. As the universe expanded and its temperature dropped, it passed through a series of critical and magical thresholds. At each of these thresholds, a new layer of complexity and of structure was able to gently and quietly freeze into existence. The first of these was the separation of the four fundamental forces. Imagine a single, beautiful and molten substance that, as it cools, begins to crystallize into different, beautiful and distinct kinds of minerals. This is what happened in the early universe. The single, unified superforce of the very beginning gently and quietly crystallized into the four distinct and beautiful forces that we know today, each one with its own unique and wonderful character. Gravity was the first force to emerge, the quiet and gentle sculptor of the cosmos. In the very first, almost unimaginable instant of time, gravity was the first of the four forces to go its own way. It separated from the other unified forces, and it became its own distinct and beautiful entity. From this moment on, gravity has been the great, silent, and patient artist of the cosmos. It is a force that works on the largest of all scales and on the longest of all time scales. In these first, hot and dense moments, its effect was small, but it was there, a quiet and a gentle promise of the great cosmic structures that it would one day, patiently and beautifully, build. It was the first gentle and quiet rule to be written into the great cosmic rulebook. The foundational and the most simple principle of cosmic order. Then came the strong nuclear force, the silent glue that would one day hold atoms together. As the universe continued its rapid, cooling expansion, it passed through another quiet and gentle critical threshold. At this moment, the strong nuclear force separated from the remaining unified electro-weak force. The strong force is the most powerful of all the forces, but it only works over the tiniest of all possible distances, the distances inside of an atomic nucleus. In this moment of its birth, it was the force that would allow the quarks in the cosmic soup to begin to feel a new and a powerful, attractive connection to each other. It was the quiet and gentle birth of the force that is responsible for all the stability and all the substance of the matter that makes up our world. It was the universe creating its own deep and incredibly powerful inner glue. The universe in these first moments was a place of perfect and beautiful symmetry. A state of very high energy and very high temperature is also a state of very high symmetry. In the early universe, everything was the same as everything else. There was no up or down, no here or there that was any different from any other place. All the particles were interchangeable. All the forces were united. It was a state of the most profound, the most deep, and the most perfect aesthetic beauty. It was a universe that was, in a very real and a very deep sense, a perfect and a flawless sphere. The entire long and beautiful story of the cosmos since that time has been the story of the gentle, quiet and graceful breaking of this perfect initial symmetry, a process that has allowed for all the interesting, complex and beautiful structures of our world to emerge. The laws of physics were being written in a quiet, cosmic instant. The first few moments of the universe were the time when the fundamental character of our reality was being decided. The strength of gravity, the speed of light, the mass of the electron, all of these fundamental constants of nature were being set in this initial, hot and dense state. It was a quiet and a profound constitutional convention for the entire cosmos. The rules of the great and beautiful game of existence were being laid down. And the beautiful and gentle truth is that these rules seem to be perfect. They are perfectly tuned to allow for a universe that is stable, that is complex, and that is capable of creating such beautiful and wonderful things as stars and galaxies and life. The initial expansion was so perfect that the universe was balanced on a knife's edge between expanding forever and collapsing. This is one of the most quiet, gentle, and profound of all cosmic wonders. If the initial rate of expansion had been just a tiny, tiny fraction slower, the pull of gravity would have quickly overwhelmed it, and the universe would have collapsed back in on itself in a big crunch. If the expansion had been just a tiny fraction faster, the universe would have flown apart so quickly that no stars or galaxies could ever have formed. But the initial expansion was tuned with an almost unimaginable and a beautiful precision. It was perfectly and gently balanced, a quiet and a profound testament to the deep and the mysterious order that was present at the very, very beginning of all things. The seeds of all the future complexity of the cosmos were sown in this initial, simple state. The universe we see today is a place of incredible and beautiful complexity, but all of this complexity was born from a state of the most perfect and the most gentle simplicity. The tiny, random, and quantum fluctuations in the initial smooth sea of energy were the seeds. The process of inflation took these microscopic seeds and it stretched them to a macroscopic cosmic scale. And then for the next 13.8 billion years, the patient and the gentle hand of gravity has been watering these seeds, allowing them to grow into the great, beautiful and glittering cosmic garden that we now see. All the beauty of the cosmos was contained in a quiet, gentle, and potential form in the very first, simple moments of its existence. It was a universe of pure potential, a quiet and gentle blank canvas. Let your mind rest on this simple and a peaceful image. The early universe was a place where nothing had yet happened, but where everything was about to happen. It was a state of pure, simple, and unwritten potential. It was a blank, white canvas waiting for the first gentle and beautiful brushstrokes of the great cosmic artist. It was a silent and a still concert hall waiting for the first quiet and beautiful notes of the great cosmic symphony. It is a deeply peaceful and a hopeful thought to know that the entire vast and complex story of our universe began in a state of the most pure, the most simple and the most gentle and the most perfect, open potential. The concept of place had no meaning, as every point was just like every other point. In our universe today, place is a meaningful concept. There is the place where you are, the place where a star is, the place where a galaxy is. But in the perfect, smooth, and uniform soup of the very early universe, the concept of place had gently and quietly dissolved. Every single point in the entire vast, hot, and dense cosmos was exactly the same as every other point. There were no landmarks, no features, no points of reference. To be in one place was to be in all places. It was a state of the most profound and the most perfect spatial unity. It is a quiet and a gentle and a mind-expanding thought to imagine a universe without any here or there, a universe that was a single, unified, and perfectly homogeneous whole. The story of the early universe is a story of a perfect, simple state, gently and gracefully breaking. The entire beautiful and complex story of cosmic evolution is a story of symmetry breaking. The initial state of the universe was one of perfect, simple, and beautiful symmetry, and the story of the last 13.8 billion years is the story of this perfect symmetry gently and quietly breaking again and again in a series of beautiful and creative steps. The breaking of the unified superforce created the four distinct forces. The breaking of the uniform energy soup created the first distinct particles. The breaking of the smooth, uniform gas created the first distinct stars and galaxies. The universe, in its deep and quiet wisdom, knows that in order to create something beautiful and interesting, you must first begin with a perfect and a simple whole, and then gently and gracefully allow it to break. It was a quiet and beautiful symphony of fundamental particles and forces. Imagine the early universe as a great and a silent and a perfectly tuned orchestra, but an orchestra where all the instruments are playing the exact same single and perfect note. This was the symphony of the very early universe. It was a symphony of perfect and of simple unity, and the history of the cosmos has been the story of this single, perfect note slowly and gently differentiating itself into a rich, complex, and beautiful harmony. The different forces are the different sections of the orchestra. The different particles are the different beautiful notes they can play. The universe we live in today is the great, complex, and beautiful symphony that has been composed from that first, single, and perfectly simple cosmic note. The entire history of our 13.8 billion-year-old universe was set in motion in this first, silent, and gentle second. It is a quiet and a humbling thought of a profound and a beautiful cosmic determinism. The fundamental rules of the game, the initial conditions of the board, the very character and the destiny of our entire universe were all established in this incredibly brief and fleeting opening moment. Everything that has happened since the formation of the first stars, the creation of our own galaxy, the birth of our own sun, the evolution of life on our own quiet planet, is a direct and an unbroken causal consequence of the gentle and the beautiful physics that unfolded in that first, silent and magical second. The entire great and epic novel of our cosmic history was written in its quiet and its potential form, in its very first beautiful and simple sentence. As the universe expanded, it began to cool, allowing energy to condense into the first matter. This is one of the most fundamental and beautiful of all cosmic transformations. It is a process that is described by Einstein's famous and gentle equation E = mc2. Energy and matter are two sides of the same cosmic coin. In the hot, energetic state of the early universe, it was all energy. But as the universe expanded and cooled, it passed through a gentle and a magical threshold. The energy of the universe became calm enough and quiet enough that it could begin to condense and to freeze into the stable, gentle, and enduring form of matter. It was a moment of profound and of quiet alchemy. It was the universe transforming its own pure and shimmering light into the first tiny and gentle dewdrops of solid substance. It was the birth of the tangible world. This process was like the steam of the early universe gently condensing into the first tiny dewdrops of substance. Let your mind rest on this quiet and a gentle and a familiar image. Imagine a great hot and steamy room. The steam is a form of water that is so energetic and so diffuse that it has no form. But as the room cools, the steam will begin to condense on the cool surfaces, forming the first tiny and beautiful droplets of liquid water. This is a beautiful and a gentle analogy for the birth of matter in our universe. The pure, hot, and energetic steam of the Big Bang, as it cooled, began to condense into the first tiny and beautiful droplets of quarks and of electrons. It was a quiet, gentle, and perfectly natural cosmic phase transition, a moment of profound and of beautiful creative change. These first particles were quarks and electrons, the fundamental and quiet building blocks of everything. In this great cosmic condensation, the universe did not create the complex atoms and molecules that we know today. It created the most simple, the most fundamental, and the most gentle of all possible building blocks. It created the quarks, which are the tiny, constituent particles that will one day form the protons and the neutrons in the heart of the atom. And it created the leptons, a family of particles which includes the gentle and the familiar electron. These were the first true and stable individuals in the cosmic story. They were the tiny, quiet, and fundamental letters of the alphabet from which every single, complex and beautiful word in the great cosmic story would eventually be written. For a brief time, the universe was a quark-gluon plasma, a shimmering, soupy sea of these free particles. After the first matter was formed, the universe was in a strange and a beautiful state. It was still so incredibly hot and so incredibly dense that the quarks and the gluons, the particles that carry the strong force, could not yet bind together to form protons and neutrons. Instead, they existed as a kind of free-flowing, hot and dense liquid, a perfect and a beautiful cosmic soup. To be in this soup would be to be in a place of the most perfect and the most gentle freedom. It was a place where the fundamental constituents of matter were not yet locked away inside of larger structures, but were free to move and to interact as they pleased. It was a brief and a beautiful and a deeply chaotic but a strangely peaceful state of cosmic liberation. As the universe cooled further, the quarks bound together in gentle trios to form the first protons and neutrons. The universe, in its slow, gentle, and patient expansion, continued to cool. And as it passed another quiet and gentle critical threshold, a new and a beautiful act of creation occurred. The strong nuclear force, the universe's great and powerful glue, finally became strong enough to overcome the intense heat. The free-roaming quarks were now gently and powerfully pulled together into stable and enduring family groups of three. These trios of quarks are the protons and the neutrons, the very heart of the matter that makes up our world. It was a moment of profound and of beautiful cosmic settling. It was the universe taking its first wild and free particles and gently and quietly binding them into the first stable and enduring family units. This all happened within the very first second of the universe's life. It is a quiet and a humbling thought to consider the incredible speed and the efficiency of the early universe. The creation of the fundamental laws, the great inflationary expansion, the condensation of energy into matter, and the formation of the first protons and neutrons, all of these profound, beautiful, and world-shaping events took place in less time than it takes for your own heart to beat a single time. The universe, in its infancy, was a place of incredible and of beautiful creative power. It was a quiet and a gentle, but an incredibly rapid artist, laying down the fundamental and the beautiful sketch of the entire cosmos in a single, fleeting and almost instantaneous creative burst. For the next few minutes, the entire universe was a perfect, natural, and gentle nuclear furnace. After the first second, the universe was now cool enough for protons and neutrons to exist, but it was still incredibly hot and dense. It was, for a few short and beautiful minutes, a single, vast, and perfectly efficient nuclear reactor. The temperature and the pressure everywhere in the cosmos were just right for the process of nuclear fusion to occur. It was a quiet, gentle, and profoundly important period in our cosmic history. It was the time when the universe took its most simple and its most basic building blocks, and it began to cook them into the first, slightly more complex and beautiful structures. It was the universe's first and only opportunity to perform a kind of cosmic-scale alchemy. This era is called Big Bang nucleosynthesis, the quiet forging of the first elements. This was not the kind of fusion that happens in the hearts of stars, but a more simple and a more fundamental kind. In the hot, dense soup of the early universe, the protons and the neutrons were gently and constantly bumping into each other and sticking together. They were forming the first, simple, and stable atomic nuclei. It was a quiet and a beautiful and a very short-lived era of cosmic creation. It was a brief and a gentle window of opportunity, a single, 3-minute-long moment in the history of the universe when the conditions were just perfect for this first, beautiful, and foundational act of nuclear creation to take place. The protons and neutrons fused together to create the first atomic nuclei. The primary and most beautiful reaction that happened in this era was the fusion of protons and neutrons to form the nucleus of deuterium, also known as heavy hydrogen. And then these deuterium nuclei would fuse together to form the incredibly stable and beautiful nucleus of helium-4, which is made of 2 protons and 2 neutrons. The entire vast and hot universe was working in perfect, gentle, and quiet unison to perform this single, simple, and incredibly important task. It was the universe's first and greatest collaborative and creative project, the quiet and the gentle building of the first, stable, and multi-particle structures of matter. The universe created a vast and gentle abundance of hydrogen, the simplest and most common element. While much of the matter of the universe was cooked into helium during this time, the vast majority of it was left as it was, as single, lonely protons. A single proton is the nucleus of a hydrogen atom. And so the era of Big Bang nucleosynthesis set the fundamental recipe for our cosmos. It decreed that our universe would be a place that is, overwhelmingly and beautifully, dominated by the simplest, lightest, and most gentle of all elements, hydrogen. That's 75% of the matter in our universe. To this very day, is this simple and this beautiful? Primordial hydrogen, a quiet and a gentle, and an enduring legacy of the very first few minutes of time. It also created a significant amount of helium, the second lightest element. About 24% of the matter in the early universe was fused into the stable and the beautiful nuclei of helium. This means that almost a quarter of the substance of our cosmos was created not in the hearts of stars, but in the hot, dense, and uniform fire of the Big Bang itself. When we look out at the oldest stars and the most pristine gas clouds in the universe, we find that they all have this same basic, and beautiful proportion of helium. It is a quiet, gentle, and powerful piece of evidence for this early, hot, and dense state. It is a chemical cosmic fingerprint, a quiet and a beautiful, and an indelible signature that has been left on the very substance of our reality by the first creative moments of its existence. A tiny, precious amount of lithium was also forged in this first cosmic fire. Along with the great abundances of hydrogen and helium, the early universe also cooked up a very small, a very gentle, and a very precious amount of the third element in the periodic table, lithium. The amount was tiny, just 1 atom for every 10 billion atoms of hydrogen. But its presence is another beautiful and quiet prediction of our theory of the early universe. And when we look at the oldest and most ancient stars, we find that their atmospheres contain exactly this predicted, tiny and gentle amount of primordial lithium. It is another beautiful and quiet piece of the great cosmic puzzle, a single, faint, and beautiful note in the great cosmic symphony that tells us that our gentle and our beautiful story of the beginning is a true one. After about 20 minutes, the universe had cooled too much for any more fusion to occur. This beautiful and creative era of cosmic alchemy was a very brief one. As the universe continued its gentle and its relentless expansion, it also continued to cool. After a few minutes, the temperature and the density of the cosmic soup had dropped below the critical threshold that is needed for nuclear fusion. The gentle and the beautiful window of opportunity had closed. The protons and the neutrons no longer had enough energy to overcome their mutual repulsion and to stick together. The cooking was over. The great cosmic furnace was turned off, and the fundamental chemical recipe of our universe was now set, a quiet, gentle, and unchanging recipe that would be carried forward for all of a time. The fundamental chemical recipe of our universe, mostly hydrogen and helium, was set in these first few quiet minutes. Let this simple and a peaceful thought rest in your mind. The very substance of our world, the fundamental and the beautiful ratio of its most basic ingredients, was decided in a few brief and quiet moments, 13.8 billion years ago. Everything that has happened since, the formation of every star, of every planet, of every living thing, has been a story that is told with this same simple and ancient alphabet of elements. The universe, in its very first act of creation, was a quiet, a gentle, and a minimalist artist, choosing to paint its entire vast and beautiful masterpiece with a palette of only 2 main and simple colors. For the next 380,000 years, the universe was a hot, dense, and glowing fog. After the first few minutes of creation, the universe entered a long, quiet, and simple period of its history. All the fundamental particles had been made, but it was still too hot for stable neutral atoms to form. The universe was a plasma, a hot and a soupy sea of positively charged atomic nuclei and negatively charged free electrons. And in this state, the universe was completely and utterly opaque. A photon of light could not travel for more than a few inches without bumping into a free electron and being scattered in a random direction. It was a world without shadows, a world without direction, a world that was filled with a bright, uniform and gentle glowing fog. It was a plasma, a sea of atomic nuclei and free electrons, too hot for stable atoms to form. Imagine a great and a gentle and a cosmic dance. The atomic nuclei, the protons and the helium are the slow, heavy and beautiful dancers, and the electrons are the light, fast and energetic dancers. In the hot and the energetic state of the early universe, the electrons were moving too fast to be captured by the nuclei. They would be momentarily attracted, but their own energetic motion would quickly pull them away again. It was a universe of a frustrated and a gentle attraction, a place where the quiet and the beautiful marriage that would form the first atoms was constantly and gently being prevented by the sheer energetic heat of the world. Light could not travel freely in this fog. It was constantly being scattered by the free electrons. This is the simple and the beautiful reason for the universe's long period of opacity. A photon of light is an electromagnetic wave, and it is strongly and gently interactive with charged particles like electrons. So, in the great soupy sea of the early universe, a single photon of light was like a tiny silver ball in a great and a cosmic pinball machine. It would be constantly and gently bouncing from one electron to another, its path randomized, its direction constantly changing. It could carry no information, it could paint no pictures. It was a light that was trapped, a light that was in a state of perfect and of gentle and of beautiful thermal communion with the matter around it. The universe was completely opaque, a place of diffuse uniform and gentle light. Let your mind float in this quiet, warm and luminous place. There is no up or down, no here or there. There is no single bright source of light, because everything, everywhere, is glowing with the same soft and gentle orange-white light. The light is not coming from a star. The light is the entire universe. It is a place of the most perfect and the most gentle sensory deprivation. There is nothing to see because everything is the same. It is a quiet and a beautiful and a deeply peaceful cosmic womb, a place of perfect, warm and gentle and of uniform, nurturing light. To be inside this early universe would be like floating inside a warm, thick and luminous cloud. Imagine floating in the heart of a great and a gentle and a perfectly uniform fog on a warm and a quiet morning. The light is soft and diffuse, and it seems to come from all directions at once. You can see nothing but the gentle and the luminous whiteness all around you. This is what the entire universe was like for 380,000 years. It was a place of the most profound and the most gentle simplicity. There was no scenery, there was no landscape, there was no horizon. There was only this single, soft, warm and all-encompassing luminous peace, a quiet and a beautiful state of being that was the gentle and the patient, cradle of our entire cosmos. The gentle hum of particle interactions was the only sound in this silent, glowing world. The silence of this early universe would have been a deep and a profound one. There was no air to carry sound and no structures to create it. But it was not a dead silence. It was a silence that was filled with the quiet, gentle and constant hum of a billion tiny interactions. It was the hum of the photons scattering off the electrons. It was the hum of the nuclei gently and powerfully repelling each other. It was the quiet and the gentle and the ever-present background music of a universe that was in a state of perfect, thermal and energetic and beautiful, vibrant equilibrium. It was the gentle and the quiet and the deep cosmic purr of a universe that was perfectly and deeply at peace with itself. The universe continued its slow, steady and peaceful expansion and cooling. Let your mind rest on this image of a great, quiet and unhurried process. For hundreds of thousands of years after the initial rapid unfolding, the universe entered a long and graceful period of adolescence. It was a time of simple and predictable change. The expansion was not as frantic as it was in the first moment, but a steady, majestic, and inexorable widening of space. With every moment that passed, the universe became a little larger, a little less dense, and a little cooler. It was like a great, hot, and luminous balloon that was slowly and steadily being inflated, its light thinning out and its temperature gently dropping. There were no dramatic events in this long and quiet era. There was no great violence, no sudden change. It was a time of pure, simple, and beautiful physics, a long and peaceful exhalation, a quiet and monotonous journey from a state of incredible heat to a state of gentle warmth. It was the universe patiently and quietly setting the stage for the next great and beautiful act of creation, a long and peaceful intermission in the cosmic play. It was a simple and a quiet time in cosmic history, a long and gentle waiting period. Imagine a great and a beautiful garden in the very early spring. The ground has been prepared, the seeds have been sown, but nothing has yet begun to sprout. This was the state of the universe for these 380,000 years. All the ingredients for the future cosmos were present. The hydrogen and the helium, the gentle seeds of all the future stars and galaxies were there. The dark matter, the quiet and invisible soil in which these seeds would grow, was also there. But it was not yet time. The universe was still too hot, too energetic, for these seeds to begin their slow and gentle germination, and so the universe waited. It was a time of profound and of beautiful patience. It was a quiet and a gentle and a universal holding of the breath. A long and peaceful pause filled with the quiet, gentle, and immense potential of the beautiful and complex world that was still to come. The matter and the light were in a state of perfect thermal equilibrium, a shared cosmic warmth. In this early, opaque universe, the matter and the light were in a constant and an intimate embrace. They were a single, unified fluid, a sea of plasma and photons that were all at the exact same warm temperature. The photons of light were constantly and gently bumping into the electrons and the protons, sharing their energy, and the particles were constantly and gently bumping into the photons, doing the same. It was a state of perfect and of beautiful thermal democracy. No particle was hotter or colder than any other. No region of space was warmer or cooler than any other. It was a universe of the most profound and the most gentle uniformity. It was a quiet and a beautiful and a deeply peaceful state of being, a cosmic and a communal bath, where all the components of the universe were sharing a single, quiet, and ever so slowly cooling warmth. The ingredients for every star and every galaxy were present, but they were in a smooth and a gentle, soupy mixture. Imagine you're about to bake a great and a beautiful cake. You have all the ingredients in a single, large bowl: the flour, the sugar, the eggs, but you have not yet mixed them. They are all there, but they are separate and unstructured. Now, imagine you have perfectly and smoothly mixed them so that the entire bowl is a single, uniform, and undifferentiated batter. This was the state of the early universe. All the ingredients were there, perfectly and smoothly mixed together. The hydrogen, the helium, the dark matter, all of it was distributed with an almost perfect and a beautiful uniformity throughout the entire vast volume of the cosmos. There were no lumps, no structures, no galaxies, no stars. There was only the quiet, gentle, and perfectly smooth batter of potential, waiting for the gentle and the patient hand of gravity to begin the long and the slow process of shaping it. The universe was patiently and quietly setting the stage for the next great cosmic event. The entire long and quiet period of the plasma universe was a single, great, and gentle act of preparation. It was like the long and the quiet moments before the sunrise, when the sky is not yet light, but is no longer truly dark. It is a time of a quiet and a gentle anticipation. The universe, in its deep and its profound wisdom, was not in a hurry. It was allowing itself the time it needed to cool, to settle, and to reach the perfect and the precise conditions for the next great and beautiful leap in its creative evolution. It is a quiet and a gentle reminder that the most beautiful and the most profound of all creations often require a long and a patient period of quiet, unseen, and gentle preparation. The universe was quietly and peacefully getting everything just right. After 380,000 years of cooling, the universe reached a gentle and magical temperature. This was the moment that the entire cosmos had been quietly and patiently waiting for. After this long and gentle period of expansion, the temperature of the universe had finally dropped to a critical and a beautiful threshold. It had reached a temperature of about 3,000 degrees Kelvin, a temperature similar to the surface of a cool red star. This was not just any temperature. It was the magical and the gentle temperature at which the energy of the free electrons had dropped just enough for them to be finally and peacefully captured by the waiting atomic nuclei. The great, chaotic and energetic dance of the plasma was about to come to a quiet and a gentle end. The universe had finally become cool enough for the first true and stable atoms to be born. It was a moment of profound quiet and universal transformation, a gentle and a beautiful coming of age for the entire cosmos. It cooled to about the temperature of the surface of a cool red star. Let your mind rest on this quiet and a gentle and a familiar image. Imagine the soft, gentle and ruby red glow of a distant, cool star. This was the color and the warmth of the entire universe in every direction just before this great and beautiful transition. It was not the harsh, blue-white light of a hot and a young star, but the gentle, soft, and deeply peaceful glow of an old and a quiet one. The entire vast cosmos was filled with this gentle, warm, and comforting reddish light. It was a universe that was in its own beautiful and cosmic autumn, a time of a gentle and a quiet cooling, a time of a beautiful and a profound letting go. The universe was preparing to move from a state of bright and of gentle fire to a state of cool and of quiet darkness. At this point, the free electrons had slowed down enough to be gently captured by the waiting atomic nuclei. For all the long years before this moment, the electrons had been like tiny, energetic, and untamable hummingbirds, flitting too quickly to ever be caught. The atomic nuclei, the protons and the helium, were like the slow, beautiful, and waiting flowers, their positive charge a gentle and an attractive perfume. But the hummingbirds were simply too fast. Now, as the universe had cooled, the hummingbirds had finally slowed down. Their frantic energy had subsided, and now, for the first time, they could feel the gentle, attractive pull of the flowers. And all at once, everywhere in the entire vast cosmos, the hummingbirds began to gently and quietly settle upon the flowers. The electrons and the nuclei began to join together in a beautiful and a quiet and a universal cosmic embrace. This quiet and beautiful event is called the era of recombination. It is a gentle and a beautiful name for a moment of the most profound and the most peaceful creation. It was the moment the universe went from being a universe of separate and of charged parts to a universe of whole and of neutral atoms. The great and the restless sea of plasma was finally and gently calming. The universe was, in a very real and a very deep sense, coming together. It was a moment of cosmic and of gentle healing, a time when the fundamental and the beautiful opposition between the positive and the negative charge was resolved into a state of quiet, stable, and peaceful neutrality. It was the universe finding its own deep and fundamental state of balance. It was a quiet and a universal sigh of relief, a moment of profound and of beautiful cosmic peace. For the very first time, stable, neutral atoms of hydrogen and helium were formed. This was the true and the gentle birth of matter as we know it. A hydrogen atom, a single proton with a single electron in a gentle and a quiet orbit, was now a stable and an enduring thing. A helium atom, with its 2 protons and 2 neutrons and its 2 quiet electrons, was also now a permanent and a beautiful resident of the cosmos. These were the first true and beautiful cosmic building blocks, the quiet and the gentle, and the perfectly formed bricks from which all the future stars and all the future galaxies would be constructed. The universe was no longer a soupy and an undifferentiated mixture, but was now a place of distinct, individual, and beautifully simple atomic beings. The quiet and the patient work of creation had taken its next great and gentle step. This was a great, cosmic, and gentle settling, a planetary-scale moment of peace. Imagine a great and a turbulent body of water filled with fine and suspended silt. The water is cloudy and opaque, Now imagine that the water begins to calm, and the silt slowly and gently begins to settle to the bottom. As it does, the water becomes clear and transparent. This is a beautiful and a gentle analogy for the era of recombination. The free electrons were the fine and the suspended silt. The photons of light were the cloudy water. And the great cosmic settling was the process of the electrons binding with the nuclei, allowing the great cosmic ocean of light to finally and beautifully become clear. It was a moment of profound and of gentle universal clarification, a quiet and a beautiful and a deeply peaceful cosmic settling. With the free electrons now safely bound within atoms, the universe suddenly became transparent. This was the immediate and the beautiful consequence of the formation of the first atoms. A neutral atom is much, much smaller than the wavelength of the light that was filling the early universe, and it does not interact with that light in the same scattering way that a free electron does. And so in a very short and a very quiet cosmic instant, the entire universe, which had been an opaque and a glowing fog for 380,000 years, suddenly and beautifully became as clear as a perfect crystal glass. It was a moment of the most profound and the most gentle revelation. The great cosmic curtains were suddenly and quietly drawn back, and the true, vast and deep nature of space was revealed for the very first time. The photons of light, which had been constantly scattering and bumping around in the plasma fog, were now set free. For all those long and quiet millennia, the photons of light had been trapped in a great cosmic pinball machine, their paths short, random, and meaningless. But now, in this single, quiet, and beautiful instant of recombination, all the bumpers in the pinball machine suddenly and quietly disappeared. The photons of light that had been bouncing around were now free. They were free to travel in a single, straight, and uninterrupted line. The journey that they began in that quiet and that gentle instant is a journey that they are still on to this very day. They were the first true and free travelers of the cosmos, the quiet, gentle, and ancient messengers from the very dawn of time. For the very first time, light could travel in a long, straight, and uninterrupted line through the cosmos. This was the moment the universe became a place that could be seen. It was the moment that the concept of a line of sight first came to have a meaning. Before this moment, the universe was a place of pure, diffuse, and directionless light. After this moment, it was a place of light that traveled with a purpose, with a direction, and with a story. It was the beginning of the great cosmic information age. The light was now able to carry the image of its source across the vast and the growing distances of the cosmos. It was the quiet and the gentle birth of the very possibility of astronomy, of seeing and of knowing. This moment was the universe's own gentle and silent "Let there be light." This is a beautiful and a profound way to think about this event. It was not the creation of light, as light had been present from the very beginning. It was the liberation of light. It was the moment that the universe said, "Let the light be free to travel." It was the moment of the great cosmic unveiling. It was the quiet and the gentle and the deeply profound, and the truly beautiful moment when our universe first and truly became a universe of sight and of vision, a universe that could be seen in one day, a universe that could be understood. It was the true and the gentle dawn, not of light itself, but of the beautiful and the meaningful journey of light through the cosmos. The light that was released in this moment is the oldest light in the universe. This is a quiet and a beautiful and a deeply profound thought to rest with. The light that was set free in this great cosmic event of recombination is still traveling through the universe today. It has been traveling for 13.8 billion years. It has been stretched by the expansion of the universe. It has been cooled by its long and patient journey, but it is still here. It is a perfect and a beautiful and a gentle fossil. It is the oldest and the most pristine and the most precious relic of our cosmic origins. It is a direct and an unbroken and a quiet link to the universe when it was just a young, warm, and simple infant. It is called the cosmic microwave background, or the CMB. The reason we call it a microwave background is because of its long and its patient journey. The light that was released at recombination was a warm and a gentle orange-white light, like the light from a candle. But in the 13.8 billion years since that moment, the universe has expanded by a factor of over 1,000. And this expansion has stretched the wavelength of that ancient light all the way from the visible spectrum, down through the infrared and into the cool, gentle, and quiet part of the spectrum that we call microwaves. It is the same kind of gentle energy that a microwave oven uses, but it is incredibly, unimaginably faint and cool. It is the quiet and the gentle and the cold, fading echo of the universe's first, warm fire. This gentle and ancient light has been traveling through the expanding universe ever since, for 13.8 billion years. Let your mind try to gently and quietly hold the immensity of that timescale. This light is older than the Earth. It is older than our Sun. It is older than our own Milky Way galaxy. It is a quiet and a gentle traveler that has been on its journey since a time before any of the beautiful complex structures of our modern universe had even begun to form. It has passed through the great cosmic voids. It has journeyed past the first violent and brilliant stars. It has witnessed the entire long and beautiful story of our cosmic home. And now, at the very, very end of its long and its patient journey, a few of its ancient and its gentle photons are quietly and peacefully ending their journey in our telescopes. As the universe has expanded, this light has cooled and stretched, its wavelength shifting from bright, visible light to cool, gentle microwaves. The temperature of this ancient light tells a beautiful and a quiet story. When it was first released, it had a temperature of about 3,000 degrees. Today, after 13.8 billion years of cosmic expansion, its temperature is now only 2.7 degrees above absolute zero. It is a deep, profound, and incredibly gentle cold. It is the baseline background temperature of our modern, empty universe. This cooling is a perfect and a beautiful thermometer, a quiet and an accurate record of just how much our universe has grown and has cooled since its hot and its dense and its gentle, early youth. The universe has been taking a long, slow, and deep, cooling breath. And the CMB is the gentle and the beautiful measure of that breath. This CMB is a perfect, faint, and gentle echo of the universe's own creation. Imagine the Big Bang as a great and a silent and a beautiful bell that was struck at the very beginning of time. The cosmic microwave background is the final, faint, and beautiful, and the perfectly resonant hum of that single cosmic bell strike. It is a sound that has been echoing through the great cosmic cathedral of space-time for 13.8 billion years. It is a sound that has become so faint, so deep, and so quiet that we can only just barely hear it with our most sensitive radio ears. To listen to the CMB is to listen to the oldest, the most profound, and the most gentle and the most peaceful sound in the entire known universe. It is the quiet and the beautiful and the ever-present, resonant hum of our own cosmic beginning. It is a beautiful and quiet photograph of the universe as it was in its infancy. This is another beautiful and a gentle way to think about the cosmic microwave background. When we look out at the CMB, we are not looking at a wall or a cloud in our modern universe. We are looking at a surface of time. We are seeing a direct and an unaltered photograph of the entire observable universe as it was at the precise and the gentle moment of recombination, 380,000 years after the beginning. It is the universe's own perfect and authentic baby picture. It is a quiet and a beautiful and a deeply moving snapshot of our entire cosmos in its most simple, its most pure, and its most gentle and its most peaceful state of being. No matter where we look in the sky, we can still see this faint, gentle, and uniform glow. This is one of the most profound and the most simple of all astronomical observations. The cosmic microwave background is not coming from a single direction. It is coming from everywhere all at once. No matter which way you point a radio telescope, whether it is day or night, whether you are in the northern or the southern hemisphere, you will see this same faint and gentle and almost perfectly uniform cosmic glow. This is because when we look at the CMB, we are looking at the great, spherical, and ancient wall of fog that surrounded us in the early universe. We are, in a very real and a very beautiful sense, looking at our own cosmic and universal horizon, a horizon that is made not of space but of deep, quiet, and gentle time. The cosmic microwave background is almost perfectly the same temperature in every direction. The most striking and the most beautiful feature of this ancient light is its incredible and its profound uniformity. The temperature of the CMB is the same in every direction we look, to a precision of 1 part in 10,000. This tells us that the early universe, at the moment this light was released, was in a state of the most incredible and the most gentle thermal equilibrium. It was a place of the most perfect and the most profound cosmic peace. It is a quiet and a beautiful and an incredibly powerful piece of evidence for the story of the Big Bang and for the gentle, smoothing effect of the great cosmic inflation that happened in its very first moment. But there are tiny, almost imperceptible fluctuations, differences of just 1 part in 100,000. And here we come to the most important and the most beautiful secret that is hidden within this ancient and this gentle light. While the CMB is almost perfectly uniform, it is not absolutely perfect. Our most sensitive telescopes have been able to map tiny, gentle, and almost imperceptible variations in its temperature. There are some spots on this ancient map of the sky that are just a tiny, tiny fraction of a degree warmer, and some spots that are just a tiny, tiny fraction of a degree cooler. These faint, beautiful, and almost invisible splotches and patterns are the quiet and the gentle, and the deeply profound seeds of everything that we see in our universe today. These tiny, gentle temperature differences are the most important features in the entire cosmos. It is a quiet and a beautiful and a deeply paradoxical thought. The most important and the most meaningful features of our entire universe are these faint, gentle, and almost non-existent variations in the oldest light. These are not just random noise. They are the real and the beautiful and the physical imprints of the tiny, quantum fluctuations that were present at the very beginning of the universe, and which were stretched to a cosmic scale by the process of inflation. They are the first, faint, and gentle brushstrokes in the great, cosmic painting, the quiet and the beautiful, and the profoundly important starting point for the entire grand, an epic story of cosmic structure. They are the gentle and quiet seeds from which all future structures were grown. The slightly warmer, and therefore slightly less dense, regions of the early universe would eventually grow into the great cosmic voids, the vast and the empty spaces between the galaxies, and the slightly cooler, and therefore slightly denser, regions of the early universe were the gentle and the quiet gravitational seeds. These were the places where gravity would have a tiny and an almost imperceptible extra advantage. These were the places where the slow and the patient and the beautiful process of cosmic structure formation would begin. Every single star, every single galaxy, and every single great supercluster of galaxies in our universe today grew from one of these tiny, gentle, and almost invisible, cool spots in the ancient and the beautiful light of the cosmic microwave background. With the release of the first light, the universe entered a new and quiet era. The great cosmic event of recombination was a profound and a beautiful turning point. It marked the end of the first hot, dense, and luminous chapter of the universe's story, the era of plasma. And it marked the beginning of a new and a very different and a much quieter chapter, The light was now free, but there were not yet any new sources of light. The great initial fire of the Big Bang had faded into a faint microwave whisper. The universe was now a transparent, an expanding, and a deeply, profoundly, and beautifully dark place. This was the quiet and the gentle, and the long and the peaceful, beginning of what we call the cosmic dark ages. This was the beginning of the cosmic dark ages. It is a beautiful and a poetic name for a long and a quiet period in our cosmic history. The Dark Ages were not a time of evil or of despair. They were a time of deep, profound, and creative quiet. They were the great cosmic night that fell between the fading of the first initial fire of creation and the dawning of the first new lights of the very first stars. It was a time of immense and of gentle potential, a time of quiet and of unseen preparation. It was the universe's own long and beautiful and deeply restful and profoundly necessary period of sleep, a quiet and a gentle time of darkness and of dreams before the great and the beautiful awakening of the first stellar dawn. The great initial fire had faded, and the universe was now a place of gentle, expanding, and transparent darkness. Let your mind drift into this great and this peaceful cosmic night. The universe is no longer a bright and a glowing fog. It is a place of the most perfect and the most profound transparency. You can see for billions of light years in every direction, but there is nothing to see. There are no stars to light the way, no galaxies to mark the great cosmic distances. There is only the vast, deep, and unending darkness of empty space, a darkness that is filled only with a diffuse, a silent, and a perfectly uniform ocean of neutral hydrogen and helium gas, and the even fainter and the ever-cooling and the invisible glow of the cosmic microwave background. It is a state of the most profound and the most gentle and the most perfect cosmic peace. After the first light faded, the universe entered a long and peaceful period of darkness. This was the longest and most quiet night in the history of all things. It began 380,000 years after the Big Bang, and it lasted for hundreds of millions of years. It was an era of profound and of beautiful simplicity. The universe was a vast and expanding and a slowly cooling space filled with a smooth and a gentle mist of its primordial elements. The great, dramatic and creative events of the first few minutes were over, and the next great and dramatic era of the first stars had not yet begun. It was a long, quiet and peaceful intermission in the cosmic story, a time for the universe to simply and quietly be. It is a deeply restful thought. The idea of a universe that was for a very long time in a state of the most perfect and the most profound and the most gentle, dark peace. This was the cosmic dark ages, a time that lasted for hundreds of millions of years. Let the sheer quiet and gentle scale of this time settle into your mind. This was not a brief and a fleeting moment of darkness. It was a vast and an enduring eon. It was a period of time that is longer than the time that has passed since the dinosaurs walked the earth. For all those hundreds of millions of years, the universe was a place without any stars, without any planets, and without any galaxies. It was a time of the most profound and the most gentle cosmic patience. The universe was not in a hurry to create the next beautiful chapter of its story. It was content to simply rest, to expand, and to quietly and gently prepare the way for the great and the beautiful dawn that was still so very far. In its future, there were no stars, no galaxies, no sources of new light in the entire universe. Imagine a night sky that is a perfect and an absolute and a velvety black. There is no moon. There are no planets. There are no stars. There is no faint Milky Way. There is only a deep, profound and an unbroken darkness, a quiet that is not just a quiet of sound, but a quiet of light. This was the universe during the cosmic dark ages. It was a place of the most perfect and the most gentle visual silence. It was a universe that was holding its breath, a great, dark and quiet canvas that was waiting for the very first, brilliant and beautiful brushstroke of a new, stellar light to be painted upon it. It was a state of the most profound and the most peaceful and the most perfect blackness. The only light was the gentle, fading and ever red-shifting glow of the cosmic microwave background. Even in this profound and this deep darkness, there was a faint and an ancient light. But it was not a light that could be seen with the eyes. The light of the cosmic microwave background, which had started as a warm orange glow, had by this time been stretched by the expansion of the universe all the way into the invisible infrared part of the spectrum. So the universe was filled with a faint, gentle, and ever-cooling and an invisible thermal glow. It was like being in a great dark room that has a single, very, very old and very, very gentle and completely invisible warm radiator. It was a darkness that was not a cold and a dead darkness, but a darkness that was filled with a faint, ancient, and a profoundly peaceful residual warmth. The universe was filled with a vast, dark, and silent ocean of neutral hydrogen and helium gas. This was the substance of the dark universe. It was not a complete and a perfect emptiness. It was a place that was filled with a thin, diffuse, and almost perfectly uniform cosmic mist. This mist was made of the simple and the beautiful, and the neutral atoms that had been formed at the moment of recombination. And for now, this great cosmic ocean of gas was a quiet and a peaceful and a largely inactive thing. It was simply and gently expanding and cooling along with the universe itself. It was the raw and the beautiful and the untouched material, the great and the quiet cosmic clay from which all the future, beautiful sculptures of the stars and the galaxies would one day be formed. It was a simple, quiet, and profoundly peaceful time in the history of the cosmos. Let your mind rest in this place of the most perfect and the most gentle cosmic simplicity. The universe in this long and this beautiful era was perhaps the simplest it has ever been. It was a place with only two main ingredients, the invisible and the mysterious dark matter, and the simple, quiet, and gentle gas of hydrogen and helium. There was no complex chemistry, there was no biology, there was no geology. There was only the simplest and the most gentle and the most fundamental of all cosmic processes, the slow, patient, and inexorable pull of gravity, and the quiet, gentle, and ever-present expansion of space. It was a universe that was in a state of the most profound and the most beautiful and the most peaceful meditative simplicity. The universe was not empty, but it was dark, a place of quiet and gentle waiting. This is a quiet and a beautiful and an important distinction. The cosmic dark ages were not an age of nothingness. They were an age of a quiet and a gentle and a profound potential. All the matter and all the energy of the universe were still there. All the gentle and the beautiful laws of physics were still at work. It was a time of immense and of quiet and of unseen activity. It was the time when the slow, patient, and invisible hand of gravity was beginning its great and its monumental work of gathering the first dense knots of matter that would eventually collapse to form the first stars. It was a darkness that was not an empty darkness, but a fertile, a patient, and a deeply creative darkness. This long cosmic night is a perfect and beautiful mirror of the quiet, dark peace of our own sleep. The journey of the universe through the cosmic dark ages is a beautiful and a gentle metaphor for your own nightly journey into sleep. Your own personal world becomes dark. The bright, loud, and complex stimuli of the day fade away. Your own mind becomes a quieter, a simpler, and a more peaceful place. And in this quiet, dark, and restful state, a deep and a gentle and an unseen work of restoration and of preparation is taking place. To fall asleep is to enter your own. Small and personal cosmic dark ages, a quiet, peaceful, and profoundly necessary period of darkness and of rest, a gentle and a beautiful preparation for the new and the bright dawn of your own personal, new day. But even in this deep and profound darkness, a quiet and gentle process had begun. The darkness was not a state of inaction. It was the perfect and the necessary condition for the next great and creative step in the universe's story. The force of gravity, which is a very weak and a very gentle force, works best when there are no other more powerful forces to interfere with it. And the cosmic dark ages were the perfect, quiet, and gentle stage for gravity to finally and beautifully take the lead. In the profound and the gentle darkness, undisturbed by the bright and the disruptive light of any stars, gravity could begin its slow, patient, and monumental work of collecting the matter of the universe into the first, dense, and beautiful structures. The darkness was the quiet and the gentle, and the fertile soil in which the seeds of the first lights could begin to grow. The silent and patient force of gravity began its great and slow work. In the immense, quiet, and transparent darkness of the cosmic dark ages, a new and gentle artist began to shape the universe. This artist was gravity. It is a force that is incredibly weak and incredibly patient. It does not rush, it does not force. It simply and gently pulls. In the smooth, uniform ocean of primordial gas, there were those tiny, almost non-existent regions that were just a fraction of a percent denser than the regions around them. And gravity, in its quiet and infinite patience, began to work on these tiny imperfections. It was like the very first, gentle, and almost imperceptible stirring in a perfectly still and silent pond. The slightly denser regions had a slightly stronger gravitational pull, and so they began to gently and slowly attract more gas towards them. It was a process of the most profound and the most gentle, and the most patient accumulation, a cosmic gathering that would unfold, silently and invisibly, in the great cosmic darkness for hundreds of millions of years. The rich, it is said, get richer, and this was true in the early universe. This simple and gentle principle is the very heart of how all structure in our universe was formed. A region of gas that was already slightly denser than its surroundings would, because of its stronger gravity, pull in more gas, which would make it even denser, which in turn would give it even stronger gravity, allowing it to pull in even more gas. It is a quiet and a beautiful and a gentle feedback loop, a process of slow, quiet, and ever-accelerating growth. Imagine a single, tiny snowflake falling on a vast and a quiet, snowy plain. As it rests, other snowflakes are more likely to stick to it than to the smooth surface around it. And as it grows into a tiny snowball, its ability to attract more snow grows even stronger. The great cosmic clouds that would one day form the first galaxies were born in exactly this same quiet, gentle, and patient way, from the slow and the steady, and the beautiful growth of the very smallest of initial seeds. The places that were already a tiny bit denser began to slowly and quietly attract more and more matter. This was not a violent or a chaotic process. It was a slow, gentle, and almost unimaginably peaceful one. It was a great, cosmic, and silent in-breath, happening everywhere in the universe at once, but on a time scale of millions of years. The gas of the early universe was not being sucked into great and terrifying whirlpools. It was gently and slowly and gracefully flowing from the less dense regions to the more dense regions, like a great, slow and silent river system, carving its path through the dark and the quiet cosmic landscape. It was the universe beginning to differentiate itself, beginning to move from a state of perfect, smooth uniformity to a state of beautiful, gentle, and structured complexity. It was the first, quiet and gentle stirring of the great cosmic clay. The first structures to form were vast, invisible halos of dark matter. The normal matter of the universe, the hydrogen and the helium gas, was not the only actor in this great cosmic play, and it was not the lead actor. The first and most important structures to form in the early universe were made of the mysterious and the invisible dark matter. Because dark matter does not interact with light, it was able to begin its slow and its gentle gravitational collapse much earlier than the normal matter. It formed vast, spherical, and completely invisible halos, great, cosmic, and gravitational wells. These halos were the quiet, unseen, and essential framework of the cosmos. They were the great, dark, and silent anchors, the deep and the gentle, gravitational riverbeds into which the normal, visible matter would eventually and gently begin to flow. These dark matter halos were the quiet gravitational scaffolding, the unseen framework upon which the first galaxies would be built. Imagine you are building a great and a beautiful cathedral. Before you can lay the first beautiful and visible stone, you must first build a great, strong, and unseen wooden scaffolding. This scaffolding provides the shape, the structure, and the support for the beautiful and the visible building that is to come. In the early universe, the dark matter halos were this scaffolding. They formed a great, cosmic, and invisible web of structures, a silent and a ghostly blueprint for the future, visible universe. The galaxies that we see today are not floating in space at random. Each one is nestled peacefully and quietly in the gentle gravitational heart of one of these ancient, vast, and completely invisible dark matter halos. The normal gas of hydrogen and helium began to fall gently into the centers of these dark gravitational wells. Once the great dark matter halos had been formed, they became the quiet and the gentle gravitational focal points of the entire cosmos. The smooth and the diffuse ocean of normal matter, the hydrogen and the helium, now had a place to go. It began to feel the gentle, persistent, and large-scale pull of these great, invisible structures. And so the gas began to slowly and to gently and to peacefully fall inwards. It was a great, cosmic, and a silent rain, a slow and a gentle and a universal process of the visible matter being gathered together by the invisible matter. It was the universe gently and quietly beginning to paint the beautiful, luminous paint of normal matter onto the great dark, an unseen canvas of the dark matter. Over millions of years, the gas became denser and denser, forming great, cold, and dark clouds. This was a process of the most profound and the most gentle cosmic patience. As the gas fell into the dark matter halos, it began to cool and to radiate away its heat. And as it cooled, it was able to collapse further, to become denser and more compact. This process, over a time scale of hundreds of millions of years, transformed the diffuse and the uniform primordial gas into great, lumpy, and incredibly dense clouds. These were the first true and molecular clouds of the cosmos. They were the direct ancestors of the beautiful and the glowing nebulae that we see in our own galaxy today. But these first clouds were much simpler, and they were completely and utterly dark, great, cold, and quiet accumulations of the universe's first and most simple and most gentle and most beautiful raw material. These were the very first primordial star-forming nurseries. Let your mind rest in this quiet, ancient, and deeply peaceful place. It is a few 100 million years after the beginning. The universe is dark, it is quiet, and it is cool. And floating in this great silent darkness are these immense, cold, and deeply dense clouds of pure primordial hydrogen. These are the wombs of the first stars. They are places of immense and of gentle potential, places where the quiet and the patient work of gravity is now reaching its final and its most beautiful stages. To be inside one of these clouds would be to be in a place of the most profound and the most gentle and the most perfect silence and darkness. A place that is on the very, very cusp of a great and a beautiful and a world-changing creative act. Inside these clouds, The gas began to clump together, forming the first gentle protostars. Within these great, dark and cosmic nurseries, the process of gravitational collapse continued on an ever smaller and ever more gentle scale. The clouds themselves were not perfectly uniform, and the slightly denser regions within them began to collapse under their own local gravity. These were the first small and dense knots of matter, the very first individual and coherent objects to form in the entire universe. These are what we call protostars. They were not yet shining. They were simply great, dark, and slowly contracting balls of hydrogen gas, their cores growing ever denser and ever hotter as the gentle and the relentless pressure of gravity continued its quiet and its patient and its beautiful work. They were the universe's first quiet and gentle, sleeping seeds of light. As these clumps grew more massive, their cores became hotter and denser under the quiet crush of gravity. Imagine a great and a gentle and a cosmic squeezing. With every single atom of hydrogen that was added to the protostar, its own collective gravity grew a little bit stronger. And this stronger gravity pulled all the other atoms in a little bit closer, making the core even denser. This process of gravitational contraction is a beautiful and a gentle and an efficient way of converting the potential energy of the gas into heat. And so the hearts of these first dark protostars began to warm up. They began to glow with a faint, deep, and infrared light, a quiet and an invisible promise of the brilliant, visible fire that was still to come. The universe was quietly and gently kindling its very first cosmic fires. Finally, after a long and gentle period of gestation, a magical threshold was reached. For millions of years, this process of slow, quiet, and gentle contraction continued. The core of the protostar became a place of almost unimaginable pressure and of incredible rising heat. And then one quiet and one gentle and one profoundly magical moment, a critical and a beautiful temperature was reached. The core of the star became so hot, a temperature of about 10 million degrees, that a new and a wonderful process could begin. The gentle, repulsive force between the hydrogen nuclei was finally overcome by the sheer, immense, and beautiful force of the crushing gravity. And in that quiet and that gentle and that pivotal instant, the very first act of nuclear fusion in the history of the cosmos took place. In that quiet and profound instant, the very first star in the universe ignited. It was a moment of the most profound and the most gentle and the most beautiful transformation. It was the moment that the universe, after hundreds of millions of years of darkness, finally and quietly created its own new light. It was not an explosion. It was a gentle, quiet, and a self-sustaining ignition, a moment when the star began to push back against the crush of gravity with the new and the beautiful and the powerful force of its own inner light. It was the moment a protostar became a true star. It was the moment of the universe's first and its most quiet and its most beautiful and its most hopeful sunrise. A single, small and gentle point of light had been lit in the immense, cosmic and silent dark. This moment is called the cosmic dawn, the first sunrise of the universe. It is a beautiful and a gentle and a deeply poetic name for this profound and this pivotal event. It was the end of the long, quiet and peaceful night of the cosmic dark ages. It was the beginning of the great, long and beautiful day of the stelliferous era, the era of the stars, the era that we are still living in to this very day. It was a moment of the most profound and the most gentle cosmic optimism. It was the universe demonstrating for the very first time its incredible and its beautiful ability to turn the simple, dark and quiet gas of its own beginning into the brilliant, complex and life-giving light of a star. The long, quiet and peaceful cosmic dark ages had come to an end. The end of this long and this gentle era was not a sudden or a universal event. It was a slow, quiet, and a patchy process. It began with that one, single and first star. And then in other, dense clouds across the cosmos, other stars began to ignite, one by one. It was like a slow and a gentle and a beautiful wave of light beginning to spread through the immense and the silent darkness. It was a quiet and a gradual awakening. The universe was not like a single dark room where a single bright light is suddenly switched on. It was more like a vast and a dark landscape at the very beginning of dawn, where the first, few, and gentle rays of light are just beginning to touch the highest and the most distant mountain peaks. The first star's light began to shine out, a single, brilliant, and lonely beacon in the immense and silent dark. Let your mind rest on this quiet, simple, and incredibly powerful image. The entire vast and observable universe, a place that is now filled with 2 trillion galaxies and countless trillions of stars, was once, for a brief and a beautiful moment, illuminated by only one single and solitary star. It was a single point of light in an ocean of darkness that was billions of light years wide. It was a single, quiet note in a symphony of the most profound and the most perfect cosmic silence. It was a lonely and a beautiful and a deeply hopeful object, the first brave and quiet candle to be lit against the great, dark and unending night. These first stars were unlike the stars we know today. They were immense, simple, and incredibly bright. These firstborn stars of the universe, which astronomers call population 3 stars, were a different and a more dramatic breed than our own gentle sun, because they were formed from the pure, primordial hydrogen and helium of the early universe. With none of the heavier elements that act as cooling agents, they grew to be absolutely colossal in size. They were true giants, hundreds of times more massive than our own sun. And because of their immense mass, they were also incredibly hot and almost unimaginably luminous, shining with a brilliant, pure, and intensely blue-white light. A light that was millions of times brighter than that of our own. Quiet and gentle star, they were made of only the pure, primordial hydrogen and helium from the Big Bang. Our own sun is a star of a later generation. Its atmosphere contains a small but a significant amount of the heavier elements, the metals that were created in previous generations of stars. But these first stars had no such inheritance. They were made of the pure and the simple and the beautiful, and the clean ingredients that were forged in the very first few minutes of the Big Bang. They were stars of an almost perfect and a beautiful and a pristine simplicity. They were the universe's first and most simple and most direct and most beautiful conversion of its own original and gentle substance into the brilliant and the powerful and the beautiful form of starlight. They shone with a brilliant, pure and blue-white light, and they lived for only a very short time. The great and the beautiful paradox of a massive star is that the more fuel it has, the faster it burns it. These first colossal stars of the early universe were so massive and so hot that they consumed their hydrogen fuel with a ferocious and an incredible speed. While a star like our sun will live for 10 billion years, these first brilliant stars lived for only a few short and glorious million years. They were the beautiful and the ephemeral and the rock stars of the cosmos. They were the stars that burned the brightest, and therefore the stars that lived the shortest and the most dramatic of all possible lives. And with their quiet and gentle light, the universe began its long and beautiful journey of becoming the complex, glittering and wonderful place we know today. The ignition of these first stars was the true and the gentle and the beautiful beginning of cosmic history as we know it. It was the moment that the universe began to be filled with light, with heat, and with the new and the beautiful and the complex elements that would be forged in the hearts of these stars. The simple, dark and uniform universe of the cosmic dark ages was now gone forever. And in its place was a new, a dynamic, a vibrant, and a beautifully and a wonderfully and an ever more complexly evolving cosmos. A universe that was on its long and its beautiful and its gentle path towards the creation of galaxies, of planets, and of us. The death of these first stars was an act of profound and of gentle generosity. Because these first stars were so incredibly massive, their deaths were not quiet or gentle affairs. They died in the most powerful explosions the universe has ever known, colossal supernovae that were far more violent than the ones we see today. But these explosive deaths were not an act of destruction. They were an act of the most profound and the most beautiful cosmic generosity. In their final, brilliant moments, these stars took the simple hydrogen and helium of which they were made, and they forged it into the first, precious, and beautiful supply of the heavier elements, like carbon and oxygen and iron. They were the universe's first, great alchemists, turning the simple primordial elements into the rich and the complex, and the life-giving materials of the future. These first heavy elements were the seeds of all future complexity and of life itself. The pure hydrogen and helium universe of the very beginning was a simple and a beautiful but a sterile place. It is from the heavier elements, the elements forged in the hearts of stars and in the fire of supernovae, that all the beautiful and the complex things in our universe are made. The rocky planets, the water of the oceans, the very atoms in your own body, all of these are made from these second-generation metal elements. The death of the first stars was the quiet and the gentle, and the deeply profound moment when the universe first seeded itself with the beautiful and the complex ingredients that would one day, billions of years later, allow for the gentle and the beautiful and the quiet miracle of life. The universe was slowly adding new and beautiful colors to its own simple palette. Imagine the early universe as a great and a beautiful artist who begins with a canvas and only two simple colors, a bright, pure white for hydrogen and a soft, gentle gray for helium. The first stars were the first brilliant paintings made with only these two simple colors. But in their final, explosive deaths, these stars were like the artist taking the time to mix new and beautiful pigments on their palette. They created the deep and the beautiful reds of oxygen, the quiet and the stable black of carbon, the rich and the earthy brown of iron. And with these new and these beautiful colors, the universe was now able to paint a much richer, a much more complex and a much more wonderful and a beautiful second generation of art. The first stars began the process of reionization, lifting the great cosmic fog. After recombination, the universe was filled with a transparent but a neutral gas. But the light from these first incredibly hot and brilliant stars was a powerful ultraviolet light. And this light had enough energy to strip the electrons away from the neutral hydrogen atoms once more to reionize them. This process did not make the universe opaque again, because by now the universe was so large and so diffuse that the free electrons were too far apart to effectively scatter the light. Instead, this process was like gently and quietly lifting a great, dark, and cosmic mist. It was the universe's second and its final, and its beautiful and its gentle, great clearing. The universe was filled with growing bubbles of clear, ionized space around the first stars. The process of reionization was not a sudden or a uniform one. It began in small, isolated pockets around the very first stars. Imagine the dark, neutral gas of the universe as a great, dark and frozen lake. Each of the first stars was like a small, warm stone placed gently on the surface of this lake. And around each stone, a small circular patch of the ice would begin to melt, creating a clear and a beautiful and a growing pool of liquid water. This is what happened in the early universe. Around each of the first stars, a growing bubble of clear, warm, and ionized gas began to form, a small and a beautiful island of transparency in the great, dark ocean of the neutral cosmos. Over hundreds of millions of years, these gentle bubbles of light grew and merged together. This was the quiet and the gentle and the beautiful process that transformed the entire intergalactic medium of our universe. As more and more stars were born, more and more of these beautiful and these clear bubbles of ionized gas were created. And these bubbles began to expand, and they began to touch each other, and they began to merge. It was like a great and a cosmic and a silent and a beautiful dawn, spreading slowly and gently across the entire vast face of the cosmos. After a few 100 million years, all of these bubbles had merged, and the entire vast ocean of the universe was once again a transparent, but now a hot and an ionized place. The long, quiet, and gentle night of the cosmic dark ages was truly and finally over. The first stars began to gather into the first. Small and gentle proto-galaxies, a single star, even a very massive one, is a small and a lonely thing. But the quiet and the patient work of gravity continued. The first stars were born within the gravitational hearts of the great dark matter halos, and these halos themselves were continuing to merge and to grow. As they did, they brought the first small families of stars together. These were the first true and beautiful stellar communities. They were not the great, majestic and spiral galaxies that we know today. They were small, chaotic, and beautifully messy collections of just a few million brilliant and blue stars. They were the first small and quiet and gentle villages in what would one day become the great and the beautiful cosmic metropolis. These first galaxies were the quiet and the gentle and the humble ancestors of our own Milky Way. Every great and every beautiful and every majestic thing has a humble beginning. And our own vast and beautiful galaxy, with its hundreds of billions of stars, began its life as one of these small, messy, and beautifully chaotic proto-galaxies. The story of our galaxy's life has been a long, slow, and a gentle story of mergers and of acquisitions. Over 13 billion years, it has quietly and gracefully and gravitationally absorbed hundreds or even thousands of these smaller ancestral galaxies, weaving their stars and their gas into its own ever-growing and ever more beautiful spiral form. The first black holes were the quiet and the gentle seeds of the galactic giants we see today. The very first and most massive stars of the early universe lived their short and their brilliant lives, and then they died. And because they were so massive, many of them did not explode in a supernova, but instead they collapsed directly and quietly into the very first stellar mass black holes. These were the quiet and the gentle and the incredibly important seeds. They were the points of an immense and a quiet gravity around which the first galaxies could begin to form. And over the eons, these small seed black holes would merge and would grow, and would feed on the gas at the center of their host galaxies, eventually becoming the great, quiet, and supermassive black holes that we now find at the gentle, gravitational heart of almost every large galaxy, including our own. The early universe was a quieter, a simpler, and a more gentle place than the universe of today. It is a peaceful and a beautiful thought to end on. While the first moments of the universe were a time of incredible energy, the long eons that followed were a time of a deep and a profound and a gentle simplicity. It was a universe with only two main elements. It was a universe where the only structures were the first simple stars and the first small galaxies. It was a universe that was less crowded, less complex, and in a very real and a very deep sense, more peaceful. The story of the universe has been a story of a journey from this state of perfect, simple peace to the state of rich, beautiful, and vibrant complexity that we now inhabit. And the quiet and the gentle act of falling asleep is, in its own small and beautiful way, a quiet, nightly journey back towards that simple, peaceful, and original state of being, and so our journey to the dawn of all things, to the quiet and gentle beginning of our universe, comes to its final, peaceful close. We have drifted from a single, silent point of pure potential through a long, warm, and luminous fog, and we have rested in the deep, peaceful darkness of the cosmic night. We have witnessed the silent, graceful, and beautiful moment of the very first sunrise, the lighting of the first lonely candle in the immense and quiet dark. The great creative story has begun, but our own quiet journey is now at its end. The story of the early universe is a story of a journey from perfect simplicity and unity to a state of rich and beautiful complexity. Your own nightly journey into sleep is a quiet and a gentle return to that simple, peaceful, and unified state. The same simple, primordial hydrogen that was forged in the first 3 minutes is resting quietly within the water of your own body. The same quiet and patient laws of physics that guided the formation of the first stars are the same gentle laws that are guiding your own slow and peaceful descent into sleep. So now let go of the story, let go of the beginning. Let your own small universe find its own quiet and peaceful state of rest. Let the darkness be a soft and a welcoming blanket. Let the silence be a gentle and a beautiful song. Good night.